Mr. Warner,
How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I want to start off first by saying the Golden Bachelorette smoke show.
Okay, so I was just watching something. Maybe Jon Stewart mentioned it, I think, the other night. I've never heard of this. It's the Bachelorette, but like senior citizens or what?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I think Jon Stewart had a little joke about that, and I didn't know what it was. So
I
anyhow,
heard a
okay.
commercial on the way because I was listening to the debate on the way home, and I heard a commercial for it, so I had to look it up. And I gotta say,
They're all babes.
she's for 61, she's a babe. It's one
Okay,
one
so
chick,
it's
like
one
a
chick and
bunch of
all the
dudes.
guys are competing for her.
Yeah,
And is this the one where they do like a rose ceremony and she like gives them a rose and they get to stay or what?
I don't know. I think so.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll check that out. But so I was hoping to do this little episode right after the debate before either of us could be corrupted by like what other people are saying about the debate.
Well, I
Unfortunately,
gotta tell you, I did watch the last like 20 to 30 minutes of the debate on Timcast.
oh, so you heard like the Tim Pool?
Well, I
Okay.
told you I'm
Yeah.
only going right wing radio that
Okay,
or
that's
right
true.
wing news these days. So
Okay. Well, I'll say this. I got to watch like an hour of post-debate coverage, so I'm corrupted, but you should be relatively fresh from the debate.
okay.
So first of all, your overall impressions.
I thought it was great. I thought it was a great debate.
Okay.
I wish all debates were that congenial, I guess.
Yeah, no,
Like,
like substantive, I think it's the word.
yeah,
Like, yeah, we never get that out of the presidential debates, but always the VP debate is the one where they like talk policy. So yeah, I agree with you fully on that. Um, who do you feel like won that debate?
I mean, I don't know. I have no idea.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
think they both did a decent job of getting their points across. I think JD Vance kind of skirted a couple of questions,
Okay.
especially about who the last one, the most fresh one in my mind is him skirting the question on when Tim Walz asked him if Trump actually won the election.
So that's going to be the campaign ad. Both sides are honestly just hoping to have a couple clips they can make commercials out of or like blast
Yeah.
on social media. And that's going to be the one the Democrats use for sure. I'll say this: I watching that, I I think you could easily say Walz lost the first 40 minutes of that debate. Like the first question, he came out and looked so nervous, like he looked like he was about to crap his pants. Like you could tell and I think this was a straight up case. He has said for the last, I think, 2 months, ever since he got picked, that he's not a good debater. Apparently, he told Kamala that when she was like interviewing him. He was like, "I'm
Yeah,
terrible at debates." JD is smooth. Like I'll say this,
he was.
JD, I was worried, and I'm going to try not to use the word lied because I think in a debate, both sides bend the truth or exaggerate the truth. So I'm going to try to
Sure.
say like inaccuracies. Um, but like JD would like kind of came out with a couple, but he said them real smooth, and like the moderators had said they weren't going to fact check, so it's up to each side to fact check. And like right off the bat, he like slid a couple out there that I thought could have been challenged. I'm going to say they were slightly inaccurate, and like
Which ones?
I'm trying to remember. There was several of them through they started with Israel and Iran. And they do the whole like no new wars under Trump, no new this or that, like we had some military stuff go on under Trump, famously, and
Yeah.
I'll talk about this right now. But like the last year of Trump's presidency, Iran hit our military base in Iraq and like caused traumatic brain injury to 100 servicemen there. And like today
Yeah.
they asked Trump about that, and Trump said, "Oh, it was just headaches." And it's like, like that. Don't minimize soldiers getting hurt. Like so,
Yeah.
real quick. No matter
But
how this,
Walls actually fought him on that.
oh, and
He
he
went,
did. But
yeah.
Walt, the whole
And
thing.
I gotta say, I listened to the first, I don't know, 25 minutes while I was cooking dinner. So I didn't see Walls being nervous. I thought he came out strong against Trump. Like he
So
actually like
I think
hammered
there's
at
something to
Trump.
that. There's something to that because my whole rule about like if you want to know how a debate is going, you mute it and you just take a look at their facial expressions and their body
Yeah.
language. Like if you could have seen Waltz, like his eyes, like everything about he was a deer in the headlights for the first. God, honestly, it wasn't the whole first 40 minutes, but for most of the first 40 minutes, he did not look comfortable up there. So
Yeah.
maybe if you couldn't see him, that's different. But just watching him, so I'll say this. I was worried and I thought that JD was going to kind of slide out of like the whole this was later in the debate, but they made a comment about him being for an abortion ban. And like in
Mhm.
the same sentence he said, "I've never said I'm for an abortion ban. In 2022, I was for an abortion ban." And like he just kind of
Yeah.
and I was like, "Whoa, hold on. That sentence doesn't work." But he pretty much, and he did the best job on the abortion question that any Republican's ever going to do. I think it's going to be problematic. But he basically said, yeah, the Republicans have been terrible on this issue. It's time that we refocus, and like basically made it seem like they were going to slide more towards the middle on this. The last time Trump did that, when he said he was, 6 weeks was too short, the
Yep.
religious right got up in arms real quick and he had to backtrack. So everybody's complimenting tonight how good JD's answer was on that. And I think it was good. I'm curious to see what fallout there is tomorrow and if they're suddenly trying to fix that issue that he caused. Maybe not. Maybe they will not say anything. It sounds like he was saying that there needs to be a cutoff. I think 15 weeks is one Republicans always say, and I don't think the pro-lifers are going to go for that.
How many people watch this debate?
Not as many as the presidential debate. Everybody's going to see the clips, and there's terrible clips for both of them, and there's good clips for both of them. I'll say that the worst debate answer I've ever seen in my life was Tim Walz's answer on the Tiananmen Square thing. You know anything about that?
No, I didn't know anything about it until tonight.
So that
That
just
was
came out in the last couple days. Like that, like there's a couple things you could hit him on. The whole, the kind of weapon that I carried into war. He made that comment
yeah.
when he never was in active duty. But the Tiananmen Square thing, he said that he was in Hong Kong when Tiananmen Square happened. Turns out
Oh,
he turns out he was there when the protests were happening like afterward, like a couple months afterward. That whole area
okay.
was protest for a while. Um, but that came out a couple days ago, and this is one of those where every debate, there's a couple questions that amaze me because like somebody will get hit with a question and it's like everybody should know that question is coming. Like the people that prepped you should totally know that question is coming and you should have an answer. And like when they asked him that, he started talking. He pulled the Trump. He just started talking about other things and like I'm from a small town in Nebraska and blah blah blah. And then at the end,
Yeah.
the moderators were like, "Okay," and the answer to our question, like they held his feet to the
Yeah.
fire.
They
And I
did that
think
to
he
Vance a couple times too.
Oh, they did it to both of them, which if you're gonna do it equally. But like Walls kind of like froze up and he was like, "What can I say? I'm a knucklehead. I say dumb things at times," or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
It was the worst answer I've ever seen. And like when that happened, I was like, "That's the highlight of the debate. It doesn't matter what else happens. That clip is what's gonna stick in everybody's mind." 'Cause that's they say with
Yeah.
debates a lot of times, no matter who won or lost, there's one moment that people remember, and like that was gonna be it. And for some people, that still is it. The January 6th stuff gave half of America a chance to be like, nope, now this is my thing. Like,
Mm.
they pressed him on it. Did Trump lose? Would you certify? The thing to me, the most egregious inaccuracy he said was when he said, we did have a peaceful transition of power. Trump left
Oh yeah.
peacefully on January 20th. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, and even there, like, my biggest issue with Walz's performance, and I thought Walz did good on the last half of the debate, and we'll go through the issues they talked about in a minute, but he did good in the last half. But he missed so many opportunities where Vance would say something that was inaccurate, and boom, this is a chance to jump on him to hold his feet to the fire, and he just didn't. And that's 100% on Walz. Like the candidates
Yeah.
needed to do that to each other, and the January 20th. Oh, he left peacefully on January 20th. Yeah, he was the first president to not go to the inauguration of the next president. Like that could have been an easy thing to say there. Um,
I have a
so
question for you, Andy.
go for it.
Do you say penalized or penalized?
Penalize.
Penalized. Yeah. Yeah.
In football, yeah, it'd be that we were penalized way more than the other team. Yeah, that's how I would say it.
Yeah. So Vance said penalized, and he emphasized the penal a lot. And he said
Yeah,
it like 3 or 4 times in a row.
that might be a
I
northern
was
thing.
laughing at that one. Hmm.
That could be just a northern thing. I'll have to check.
Penal.
I have northern relatives. Let me check on that one. I'll get back to you.
Penalized, Andy.
Yeah. Well, they call it like a penal colony, I think, like a jail.
Hmm.
Penal is a
Interesting.
word. I
Yeah.
just think that if you're talking about a penalty, it's penalize.
Yeah.
I could be
Okay.
wrong. I could be wrong on
Anyway,
that one, but
I
penalize sounds right to me. Anyhow, what about
okay.
being penalized?
I don't know.
Or just
Vance said
he kept saying
he
that.
said he said penalized like 4 times in a row and was just like
You got to remember he's from Ohio and he went to Yale, so he's going to have like an interesting like
the penal code. Oh, the penal code.
penal code. See, I told you penal is a word.
Penal code.
Yeah.
Okay.
He might
So it is.
this might be one of those things where he's the only one saying it right. I don't know. I have no clue
So
what the
it's
right way to say it
penal.
is. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with penal. All right.
Penalties. From now on I'm going to try to say penalties just to watch people look at me. So but yeah, that so
Penalty box.
also real quick before we get into the issues, like when I right during the last commercial break before their final statements, I got a phone call from a relative who is an older woman, and she said, what do you think of the debate?" And I said, "Well, it's still going." And she was like, "Well, it's commercial. What do you think?" And I said, I think Vance is doing good." And she seemed concerned right away. She's like, "Really?" She's like, "I think Walz is doing great." And I was shocked. I was like, "You think Walz is doing great?" I was at that point, I was like, "Oh, this is bad." Like, JD came out and he was a chameleon tonight. Like the JD that you see online and in like the podcast was not the JD that came out tonight. But you have to applaud him. He came out and did some like rehab on his image. And if you were someone who only like you don't know anything about JD and you just watched the debate tonight, your takeaway is that guy's not that bad. I don't see why his disapproval's so high. Like he wasn't that bad at all. And he wasn't, but he's a shapeshifter to a degree. Um,
Yeah. Oh, he's always been. How many
yeah,
times has he changed his name?
three times, but I wanted to give him a hard time for that, but it seemed to make sense because I can't remember what his real last name is, but when his mom got married at one point and he was like maybe a teen or a preteen, they changed his last name to his new stepdad's name. And then
Okay.
after they got divorced and he moved in with his grandparents, he changed his last name to be their last name. So he wasn't picking names out of thin air.
Okay.
Doesn't that kind of make sense? You can't give him a hard
Yeah.
time. I
Okay.
wanted to anybody that's changed their name three times, I think you should get to make fun of. But in his case, you kind of got to not. So that's my theory.
Jebediah. His name is Jebediah, right?
Is it? It might be. I should know that. If my name was Jebediah, I'd go by JD. That's all
Yeah.
I know. Anywho, the first question, Israel Iran. That again, Walz had a decent answer. He was just nervous, and if you could have seen him, like it was almost distracting how freaked out his facial expressions were, to where you weren't
Hmm.
hearing what he was saying. You were just looking at him, going, "Oh shit, is he
He
gonna
was
be okay?"
wide-eyed pretty much the whole time though. Like
He
he
was.
was he
Yeah.
was like,
And
yeah, it was
I was following along with Trump on during the debate because Trump was live truthing it. So I was
oh
following along
no.
with that. And Trump kept making fun of him for how often he was writing things down. And I think there's this thing, I said it during the last one, but like we've started penalizing people for being a good debater. Like if you took a debate class, they would teach you how to use your notepad effectively. And it's like, "Oh, look at this nerd writing things down during the debate." And it's like, that's probably good debate technique. I've never taken a debate class, but
Who's that one guy? He's super left-leaning and he debates a lot of right-wingers.
you talking about that Destiny guy on YouTube?
Destiny,
I
yes.
can't stand that guy, but yeah,
He's good. He's good though.
yeah. The problem is he like debates Ben Shapiro, and then it's two guys that I don't care about at all. It's like the far left and the far right battling, and that I don't even want to see that. So, um, but JD had I'd say a good answer. Like I think JD won the first one, Israel Iran. Walls had a decent answer, and he did manage to slip in there the whole the Iran bombing Iraq or bombing our air base in Iraq, and 100 service members getting brain trauma, and Trump calling it a headache. So he snuck that in there, but just on style points, like JD's style points were so much better than Walls on that one. So you kind of give the first one to him for sure.
Okay.
Um, Second one bothered me. It was climate change. And when that one was the question, I was like, okay, climate change, Walls is going to dominate this. Dude, Vance knows the topics and the numbers, and he went straight into carbon and things I can't even name. Like he immediately spoke about it in a way you were like, oh, he's prepared. Like he was ready to talk climate change.
Yeah.
Walls didn't give a bad answer. I just was shocked with how good JD did. So like right off the bat, I'm like, okay, first two questions like that, those are
Thanks.
both JD. Uh, Immigration, even man, I think that Walls. This is where I started getting worried because I was like, man, like what Walls is saying is making sense to me, but JD is being super confident, and I was afraid that most people watching would just listen and nod with Vance. So it started to freak me out. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, so for climate change, I felt like JD Vance's answer was a little off, actually. Like
Well,
I was gonna agree with you, but then I kind of remember him. His answer was, it sounded like he was like, no, we need to bring more energy back to America. We need to create
because
more energy.
And
And
his
then
argument was that we basically are the cleanest when it comes to producing energy. Like a lot of other nations, China being one of them, like China is terrible with the way they produce energy. Like they
right.
pollute more than, so that was his argument there. It's not an untrue argument. That made sense to me.
And Walsh came back with we're producing more energy
Yeah.
than
And
we've
that
ever had.
that's one of
So
those where I think he just needed to be more forceful with that a couple different times because even like
yeah,
JD's answer to childcare later on was drill baby drill, and it's like again, today we're producing more anyhow.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I would again on Israel and Iran and climate change, the first two questions, like I think substantively, I can't say that word, they both kind of tied, but just on style and seeming more comfortable and confident, JD Vance takes those two questions. That's how I
all
look
right,
at it.
all right,
After the second question, the second question when they were talking immigration, JD Vance was talking about the illegal Haitian immigrants in Ohio, and the moderators, everybody got mad that they fact checked him. I wouldn't even call it a fact check, but they just said, oh, and for the record, those Haitian migrants are here legally under TPS. And JD was like, wait a second, like we agreed on the rules
all
of
right.
no fact checking. And like that was a moment where the tide kind of shifted a little. I think Walls
Yeah,
got a little calmer. Um, on the economy, I wish to God that he said it a couple times, but I wanted Walls to hammer the national debt, to hammer how much more Trump added to the national debt than his predecessors. Like that,
he mentioned that. Yeah,
he
he
did, but
mentioned
I
that.
wanted him to hammer that point home. I feel like for any real
Yeah,
Republican that's slightly not cool with voting for Trump, like let's talk about that. That is something that will get Republicans to second guess their choice of Trump. So
yeah.
could have hammered that. Um, I'm trying to think here. JD painted a really rosy picture of the Trump administration, but like a lot of it, like they argued about manufacturing jobs, and like we lost manufacturing jobs under Trump. We were going into a manufacturing recession, and I think that was one of those where Walls kind of corrected him on that. But again, like drive that point home, like that
Yeah.
wins swing voters in the Midwest. So the whole theme of the night for me was like failed, missed opportunities by Walls, like where he
I
could have
totally agree.
yeah, could have
I totally
driven stuff
agree.
home and he just didn't. So,
Yeah, he had his talking points and he would retort just a little bit and then he would go into his talking points when he could have really, like you
he
said, hammered
he never went on the attack. Like Kamala was on the attack versus Trump and had Trump on his
him.
heels. This time he was definitely not on the attack. JD was more on the attack, but what was nice about this debate is that neither of them was like just on the attack. Like
Right.
they were talking about there. So good, but again, I would have liked I thought JD left himself open to a couple counterattacks, and then the counterattacks just never happened. So, um,
Hmm.
abortion came next. This is when there was a moment in the Kamala debate, and it was when she did the crowd size thing, and then Trump said they're eating the dogs, they're eating the
Oh
cats,
yeah.
and you could see it in Kamala's body language and her facial. I was like, that's where she took a breath and she's like, all right, I got this guy. When abortion happened, I felt like that was the big turning point in the debate. He was
Okay.
very prepared. He had names and stories of people that almost died or got 12
Yeah.
years old, got raped by their parents or the stepdad, whatever it was. So that was where everything turned around. Gun violence, I thought he did really good on gun violence.
Well,
Uh,
and Vance, and let's go back. Vance is
yeah,
seems like he's flipping on abortion. Like
he
he's
is,
really flipping.
and he's moving to center. And I wish he would just say, and I'm going to give Vance props because he said the closest thing. We both always say that we wish they would say like, yeah, I learned some stuff and my position evolved. You know how we always wish politicians would say that?
Yeah, yeah.
Vance pretty much said that. He said, I've always believed this, but Ohio got to vote on it, and it turns out the majority of the citizens, would rather have access to abortion, so I've changed my mind. So credit to Vance for being the first politician to kind of say what we've all he didn't say it officially, but he got close enough to where we got to give him credit for it.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah. Um he did on that one, we said it at the beginning, but he did totally like I've never said I want an abortion ban. He's been on so many podcasts. He says that people should be punished for going across state lines to get an abortion. Like there were so many things he said that Walls could have brought up and just missed the opportunity.
Mm.
Guns, that's just a winning issue for Democrats at the moment, and especially when you have somebody like Walls who is a hunter who, has firearms to be able to talk about it. It's a lot better than if you have Hillary Clinton talking about guns.
He said
So
his daughter witnessed a shooting.
his 17-year-old son, witnessed a shooting. And that was a
Where at?
cool. What do you say at a library or at a gym or something like that?
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah. So, and that was another cool moment. There were several times tonight where the two of them were like, "Hey, I didn't know that about you. Like, sorry to hear that, and like, so just
Yeah.
neat. Even after the debate, I'm gonna jump ahead, but after the debate, like their wives came up on stage and like all four of them were standing there talking and like seemed like civilized, and it was just
Yeah.
weird to see. Like, more of that is needed. Um, Let me see here. Housing, I would give housing a toss up just because as soon as you get into the whole, like, yeah, if you give 25,000 for a down payment assistance, then the overall prices are going to get higher and this and that. I feel like I like that the Kamala housing plan. JD just threw enough out there to where it'll make you kind of second guess everything. Go, wait, is what she's gonna is she, you could very easily walk away from that going, I think housing prices could rise if we do the Kamala plan. From The Economist, it doesn't seem that way, but he threw enough doubt out there. Now, he did try to blame all the housing costs going up on migrants. And that was
Yeah.
the second time that the moderators kind of got in there and said, well, like there's a variety of issues that, that show this or would cause this.
BlackRock and yeah.
Yeah. Wall Street owning houses. Anyhow. And they were like, where are you seeing the evidence that it's this? And so that was the second real fact check of the night, in my opinion. Um,
Which Tim
Healthcare.
Walz should have done as opposed to them.
Yeah, 100%. Healthcare, I thought was definitely man, Vance tried to say that Trump saved Obamacare, like he saved it when it was failing and this and that. And right there, that's one of those where Walz could have said, yeah, he tried to kill it repeatedly. Like he got it all the way to the Senate floor vote to kill it, and John McCain saved it. Like to,
Yep.
the revisionist history part of what JD was doing tonight was honestly impressive, but it was irritating the heck out of me. Um, Families in America, talking about childcare easily. This is where Vance kind of went off the rails. He didn't do that well, and he had to defend. They were asking him, like, here's what Donald Trump has said about this. Now defend that. And it's hard to do that. So he didn't have a lot to work with, but he didn't do great there. And then the last one was the 2020 election. And that was, if anybody stuck around and watched the whole debate, the last thing you see is the 2020 election part. That was very good for Walz and very bad for Vance. Um,
Yeah.
I think the problem is with the debate, I'll bet there were a lot of people that turned it off 20, 30 minutes in, and all they saw was Vance looking a lot better. But
Mm,
towards the end, I think it flipped. So I give the first
okay.
half of the debate to Vance, the second half to Walz. Overall, I thought that this is me being cynical, but I was like, most Americans are uninformed about a lot of this stuff, so they're just going to see what Vance said and take it at face value and think oh well, he seemed pretty knowledgeable. Dude, I've seen like three or four focus groups so far. Shockingly, everybody's saying this was a tie. Like
Huh.
the NBC focus group, 5 out of 6 people in the focus group that were undecided voters said that they think Walz won and they're now voting for Harris Walz.
Oh, what?
They're Dude, like I don't understand the electorate at all, especially swing voters, because like I definitely didn't think that this was. I thought against kind of a tie. It depends on if people watch the whole thing or not. So 5 out of 6 on NBC.
They
On the
flipped?
what? Oh no, they were undecided, and that they think
Oh,
that Walz
undecided. Okay.
won, and now they're leaning towards voting Harris Walz. So 5 out of 6.
Okay.
That's ridiculous. On the CNN debate, I can't remember how many total there were, 7 or 8 people, but of the 7 or 8, all but one are still undecided. They thought it was pretty much a tie, and they're not ready to make their mind up. The one that was ready to make his mind up said he's voting for Harris Walz, and it was because of the 2020 thing. I've
Well,
got one.
Walls is he's a nice human being. He has a like he didn't really have a great presence on stage, but he actually you can tell in his voice that he wants nothing but the best for everybody in America.
And that's what, so the family member that I talked to was like, I just like him more. He seems a lot more, personable or this and that. So I think even possibly him seeming nervous might have played to certain people thinking like, oh, he's a
Mm.
regular
Yeah.
guy. You know, there's a chance that JD could look almost too polished and like a politician and a smooth talker that would scare
Oh
people.
yeah.
I don't know if that's the case, but the other one I saw, the CBS, this is an Insta poll. These Insta polls are not by any means scientific, so I don't trust them that much. But who won the VP debate? 42% said Vance, 41% said Walz, and 17% said tie. So that's
Hmm.
basically a tie. So that's shocking to me. I would not, if right after the debate, if I hadn't seen anything on TV, I would be telling you like, yeah, Vance won that one. I would say pretty easily. I thought Walz did all right. I don't No matter what, whoever wins, I don't think the VP debate changes many votes at all. But it's kind of shocking to me that like so many people see this as either a tie or Walz winning. I don't see that. I'm just going to tell you right now. Didn't I watched the whole debate and I did not see that. But I give Vance a lot of credit for style points because that's most of what a debate is. So
Yeah, I came away thinking tie-ish. I didn't really see anybody actually like taking it, you know.
yeah.
They didn't run away with it.
No, and
Vance didn't run away with it. Walls didn't run away with it. They both just had a civil conversation.
I think Vance was close to running away with it after the second question. Israel, Iran, he did good. And then the second one was climate change. And when he basically survived climate change, well, just for the Republican candidate to survive climate change, that's a
Yeah.
win right there. So when he got through
Wall
climate
should have had
change,
him on that
yeah, when he got through climate change looking good, I was like, oh shit, like this is at the time I wanted to almost text you and be like, don't watch the debate. You're not gonna like this. Like it's not going our way.
one.
Uh but again, and even on immigration and deportation, he survived. Like the things where you thought he would have got tripped up, he really did all right on. And then I wish that you would think they would plan it out. Like if there's a question like immigration favors the Republicans to talk about right now. So if you're going to do immigration first, then go healthcare, like kind of balance
Yeah.
it out. And instead, they saved like the ones that Walls is going to abortion, gun control, January 6th. Like they saved those for the very end. And it's like pepper those in throughout the debate. Like, why did we save all these for the end? But
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
Hmm.
know. Matt, honestly, now that I look at it though, looking at the order of events, they went Israel, Iran, which is foreign policy, so better for Republicans. And then they went
Right.
climate change, which should have been Walls's
Should have
time.
been.
And then they went immigration, better for Republicans. And then they went economy. Economy's a toss up. Um, and then
Actually, Republicans seem to have the
yeah.
economy.
So they
Yeah.
they went immigration to economy. So that's two in a row that should be Republican wins.
But see, this is the thing is I think the Democrats should have the economy. I
They
mean,
should here. There's
the
a
problem
weird
is we have inflation right now. Or we're coming out of the inflationary period. And yeah, so I guess it's tough right now,
yeah.
but like over the
Inflation
past, 40, 50, 60 years, the Democrats have the economy hands down, especially with Trump,
si-
raising the deficit by 8 trillion or whatever it was.
since 90 91 is when because throughout the Reagan economy when he was doing the tax cuts, trickle down economics, like it was very similar to what we can if you get 8 years of a Republican president, it's almost predictable what's going to happen. You're going to get better, 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 and then a crash. Like that's kind of what lowering
Right.
regulations and cutting taxes and all that like seems
Yeah.
to always get the same thing. So we got that at the end of Reagan. We got
Yeah,
that.
but
You
you
good?
sent me something that had Reagan in there, I think. And Reagan had like towards the end of his term, the economy was coming down.
So it actually happened after H.W. Bush won because H.W. was his VP. H.W. won in 90. And then the recession we were already starting to see like we could head into a recession, but it really hit under H.W. You could easily say it was caused by the Reagan economic plan. It just didn't hit till he left
Okay.
office. And
So
then we got
Reagan caused it. Yeah.
yeah, well, the Reagan economic plan. And then Bush, we had 8 years of Bush that led to the financial collapse. And then we got 4 years of Trump, and on Trump it was up, up, up. But then we had COVID, so we'll never know what would have happened if COVID hadn't hit. Would he have done the 6 or 7 year up, 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 and then a crash, or would his have kept going? Well, because of
Right.
COVID, we will never know. Um,
Because he probably would have gotten reelected if COVID didn't happen.
just based off the economy. Yeah. Which,
Yeah.
and that was where, again, I'm going to drill this point home, but Republicans just stopped caring about the debt. And it was like, oh, Trump's adding more to the debt than almost any other president. But the economy is doing good. So let's just keep pounding it away. And right now, with his whole tariffs thing, they keep asking all the senators, like, hey, aren't tariffs inflationary? And it's funny because all of them are like, yeah. And they're like, all right, so have you tried to tell Trump this? And they're like, Trump's not going to listen to me. And that's pretty much how every interview is going right now, where everybody knows that, like, again, that
That's
was
another thing Wall should have hammered home is
he didn't really hammer it home. But yeah,
yeah,
economists agree Harris's plan for the economy is better for our economy than Trump's. And when it comes to adding to the debt by a lot, um,
yeah.
didn't hammer it home. So missed opportunities all night long. But he somehow survived. Like if tomorrow all the polling looks like it's pretty much a 50-50 tie, then whew, I'll take after what I watched on TV, I will take a
Mhm.
tie because I don't feel like that was a tie.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but
Um,
I'm critical, and I still have Republican values. So there's a lot of things that JD was saying that I was like, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with a lot of those things. Don't
What
ask me
Republican
which
beliefs
ones.
do you
Don't
still
don't
have?
ask me which ones.
Because you
Uh,
don't have any
yeah, no, there's a couple of them, but I'll say
Jewish face lasers.
as me and Marge are tight, man. I'll tell you that. Um, I'll tell you this. I think if you took Walz's his answer about Tiananmen Square, his the worst answer I've ever seen. If you took that moment out of the debate, I don't think I'd feel this bad about his performance.
That was
That
bad.
answer that bothers me on so many levels because again, you should have been ready for that one. Like that's one that they should have been like prepping the last 2 days that hey, you might get
Yeah.
this question. You know what this all comes down to, honestly, and people have said this for the last 2 weeks, so I'm not the one who's coming up with this. But like, you know how in any sport you play or anything you do, like getting repetitions, they call them, getting your reps. You know how that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
key thing. Vance has been on every podcast. He gets interviewed. He's on the Sunday morning shows. He's getting peppered with questions left and right. He has been getting his reps. Like he hasn't anything that he could have been asked tonight. He's been asked 6 times already. So he's had a
Yeah, well,
time.
he came out of the gate saying crazy shit, and then he just like kind of has like slowed his roll on that.
I never heard him saying crazy shit. You'll have to remind me of
Well,
what that
not
was.
in the debate. I'm talking about when he first became vice
Oh,
president. He
well,
started
that
off with crazy cat. I mean, crazy cat later came out like, um, yeah, and then now what is it? The migrant
Haitians.
thing. They're
Yeah.
eating your cats and dogs.
Like I said,
Like
but that JD, the one that we see online all the time, was not the JD that showed up tonight. Like he really, I
yeah.
mean, like I said, if you knew nothing about him heading into this debate, like what you saw tonight, you're like, oh, that guy's not bad at all. Like, can that guy be president? Like, I guarantee you, there were people that don't know anything about him that were very impressed by him tonight. So the thing is, he within the next day or two, he'll be tweeting some ridiculous shit and kind of bring it all back. Which I started to say this earlier what's going to kill me is any momentum that Trump could have possibly gained from tonight. Like the media, if the if I were the media, his whole thing today about the 100 soldiers that just had headaches, like we're going to see more about that tomorrow
Yeah.
than we do the debate. They're going to suddenly and people are going to say, "Oh, look, the left is trying to use this story to cover up the
I won't
debate."
see it because I'm not watching left-wing news.
That's true, but I think we're going to see that a lot tomorrow. Of all the shit he said recently, that one because it's the whole kind of you can't how do I say this right? You can't challenge a serviceman's injury. Like if
Yeah.
someone's fought in a foreign war and they're injured, you can't even how bad is it? No, you can't ask. Like if they're injured, they're injured. And he made that mistake today. So and on the day of the debate, he should have just shut his butt up. But that's where I'm at. So
Who would you rather have president, JD Vance or Donald Trump?
oh man, I'm gonna say Trump because I think that his no. So hear me out. Like
Yeah.
JD could get a lot more done. It'd be no nonsense. Things would get
Okay.
passed. Like there'd be no distractions. He wouldn't tweet all the time. Like Trump, we all forget the fact that Trump had a majority in the House and the Senate his first 2 years, and the only thing he got done was tax cuts. Like every time they'd be like, "All right, it's infrastructure week, or we're going to do immigration now," he would tweet dumb shit, and then the media would be all over him, and that would fall apart. So Trump is the least effective at actually getting things passed. He signs executive orders left and right. They'll put it in front, but as far as working Congress and, reaching out to the other side and getting 60 votes in the Senate to be able to get something through, like he's terrible at that. I think the whole time during the first run with Trump, when people were saying, "Oh, they should impeach Trump," if you remember, I was always saying that's a bad idea because Mike Pence will make some shit happen. Like Mike Pence will
Yeah.
push through a Republican agenda. If you're on the left, a Mike Pence presidency would scare the heck out of you. I feel the same way about JD. I'll say this. I think JD has set himself up really well. You know, the whole like if Trump loses, MAGA's gonna die type, people are thinking that.
Oh,
JD tonight earned the right. If Trump loses, which is still not any kind of a possibility, I'd say it's still 50-50. But if Trump does lose, JD is the presumptive candidate in 2028, and he'll have 4 years to work the country and do rallies or whatever he's going to do. I'm telling you right now, JD
mm.
is the heir apparent to Trump after tonight.
Oh man, he's
Yeah.
gonna carry the torch. That's scary.
I don't think, and I don't think MAGA is going to die. Like there was a part of me early on in this that was like Trump needs to get like beaten badly so that like MAGA will wear off and like they call them the corporate conservatives now, but the
Yeah,
the old school, yeah. I wanted them to take back over. And there's people like Mitt Romney who are like purposely staying out of this in the hopes that Trump will lose. So then he said it. He's like, he's trying to keep his powder dry basically so he can come in and like reshape the Republican Party after Trump loses. I used to think that was possible, but I'm telling you right now, that ain't happening. Like, MAGA is not going anywhere.
Conservative values, Andy. Give me
Yeah.
one. One.
Fiscal responsibility, small government. Those are my big two.
Small government. Like, what do you want to get rid of?
I want less government in our lives,
Like what?
regulation wise.
In our personal lives?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, I feel like the Democrats have that one in the bag.
They
No.
the Republicans have ceded a lot of the things they used to believe and they've left it, and Democrats have come in and swooped in and taken it. So
Yeah.
I'm just telling you my old school the things I wish the Republican Party would get back to. And that's my
Okay.
biggest fiscal responsibility is always my go-to answer on this. And like I've told you before, like I think it should be not allowed. You cannot turn in a budget until it's balanced, till it's not adding anything to the debt. Unless the only way you can get around that is if it's a time of war. Anytime we go to war, that's when we rack up the debt. But if like we get attacked, in that case, Congress will have to take some kind of a vote, and now we can have a budget that is unbalanced and we'll take on some debt because we're defending our nation, something like that. If we're not in a time of war, you have to have it. If you're going to spend 860 trillion a year, you have to take in that many of taxes. So either cut the cost or raise the taxes. You're going to pay a price one way or another, whether pissing people off.
Raise the taxes, huh?
How bad do you want it? How bad do you really think we should have universal child care? If you really think we should have it, then you should be able to take the hit of raising people's taxes to pay for it.
Okay.
And
Fair enough.
that used to be a Republican thought. It's not anymore, but that used to be. That's my
Yeah.
biggest thing. If one of the two sides would say that and stick to it, I would vote for them. I don't care what the other things are. I take that back. I take that back to a degree. But for real, that's what I'm serious about. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. Now, I heard something recently about how our debt kind of is equal, like it's a balancing act, right? Like the income of, I don't know. I'll have to do some research on
Yeah.
this. I, yeah,
Get back to me on that
somebody,
one.
yeah,
Our
yeah.
debt is not healthy. Maybe it's one of those things where like, oh, to carry a little debt's not bad. Maybe we're
But
36.
if our economy is gaining, then it's okay to get more debt because we have the the economy to fall back on. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Again, once it hits 36 trillion, no. Like whatever, no. I don't care what your argument is. It's too high.
Okay.
So
Yeah, 36 trillion is a lot.
yeah. Got about a minute left. Real quick. I've seen a couple focus group things. Tomorrow, what's the talk going to be? You think that this is a tie for real, or do you think after people get a chance to sleep on it? What do we got?
Man, I'm gonna go tie. I'm just gonna go. It's gonna be somewhere close to a tie.
If tomorrow the news is truly acting like, well, pretty much a toss up, I'll be shocked. But I think that's where we're heading, but I just don't agree with it. So
Okay. Yeah,
anyhow,
yeah.
okay. Well,
All
you
right.
get some
Like and
sleep, man.
subscribe.
Yeah, like and
Everybody like and
subscribe.
subscribe.
All
Share
right.
this with your friends.
Got it. Yeah, I'm gonna get this on YouTube tonight. So, all right. Have a good night, buddy.
All right, later.